guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at Justino Tweets and at She Knows Arsenal. Welcome to another show. Today is basically who hates Arsenal? Who hates Arsenal today? Is it you? Is it you? Is it you? Because every single day somebody new hates Arsenal and they have to talk about it on whatever little platform that they're on. And we just get to sit by and laugh because it's absolutely laughable. I told you guys the other day that the most annoying person was Tom Rennie from I don't know what his I don't even want to give his platform any air, but he was talking about how Arsenal fans and the players were entitled and were punching down on Brentford. And today we are top of the headlines, which is so weird because for a team Arsenal. So we're going to talk about it today. So on the agenda, we have a couple of different things here. We're going to be talking about Talksport. Obviously, Jason Cundy was on Talksport today talking about how annoying or how self-serving and self-indulgent it was for Arteta to give Ethan Nwaneri his debut. So we'll talk about that. Ivan Toney, he's a part of the list. He is another person that is talking about Arsenal today. So we'll talk about what he said. We've been linked with Jesper Lindstrom from Eintracht Frankfurt. It's not the first time we've been linked to him, but we'll talk about those links and Arsenal's supposed interest in bringing him in January. There's been some updates around injuries and who might be available for the Tottenham match. So we'll talk about that as well. And then we'll get your questions in. So make sure you guys are liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And let me know how you guys are feeling in the chat box about everything. This show is just as much mine as it is yours, and it's no fun when you guys are not in the chat letting me know how you guys feel. This is not an echo chamber. If you feel differently, feel free to let me know in the chat box, but just know that if I don't like your opinion or I disagree, I will clap back. You can clap back at me, but let's just make sure we keep it, above board, to keep it nice, keep it sweet. But yeah, today did some work. Was in the city basically asking people who's the bigger club, Chelsea or Arsenal. The answers on that were interesting. A lot of people said Arsenal. And the second question we asked was, who would you rather have in your team, Harry Kane or Erling Haaland? So that's how I spent my day asking people those questions, and it was fun, not gonna lie. I do have fun asking people questions about football, and it doesn't really feel like work, does it? When you're doing something like that. So yeah, that's pretty much what my day entailed. And then I got home, I ate a little bit of something and got a little drink of water, and yeah, put my hair in a ponytail and got ready to talk to you guys, which is the best part of my day. Mira said, "Good evening, Jess, and all you gorgeous gooners. Isn't life great when you're top of the table?" It is great, Amira. I agree. Fadlala says, "I hope Arsenal fan base be a unit and be together." I think this is the most united that the Arsenal fan base has been in a long, long, long time, especially online. Like, I haven't really seen this in a long time. I don't know if I've ever seen it, to be honest, because since social media has been popular, we've been crap. And so, this is the first time that it feels like we're going into a positive period. And it feels like a lot of people on social media are all together, which is great. But we know that it's different in the stadium than it is online, but you get what I mean. Let's see what you guys are saying. Damon says, "Good evening, Jess. Good evening to you as well." Lloyd says, "Hey, Jess, this guy name is a douche. If Pep does it, he's Marvel, but Arteta is using this young man. So what about all the other players we brought in when they were young? Success breeds enemies." Exactly. I agree. K9 says, Arsenal have always been known to give young players a platform to further their careers. That's not changing because of a salty talk show host. And that's exactly where we'll start. And I guess the first thing is, this is what they do. Talksport I think we're banking on Arsenal potentially losing the game against Brentford, and they were gonna dine out on that for the entire international break, and that didn't happen. So they have to figure out something to be negative about, something that will be controversial and provocative. So Jason Cundy comes out and starts talking about Arteta being self indulgent by giving a kid his debut, and he just didn't understand the decision and all that kind of stuff. But we know ultimately what the goal is of the likes of Talksport and big publications like that is to get people clicking on their links, get people clicking on, their articles and things like that on their videos. And Arsenal are one of the biggest online fan bases. So it's no surprise that no matter how well we do or how well we're doing, we're the talk of the town. And so we always have to keep that in mind, when we're talking about these things. But nevertheless, it's like, I guess, like as a pundit, I would like to be known for my opinions making sense and not being just absolute crap. And Jason Cundy was just totally just showing his ass this morning. He basically accused Mikel Arteta of being irresponsible by handing the debut to Arsenal youngster Ethan Nwaneri. And irresponsible is a very interesting choice of words here because I just don't understand how irresponsible you could be. You're not giving him drugs, excuse me. You're not letting him drive a car underage. You are giving him his debut so he can jumpstart his career. So strange. But, you know, basically, like in this article, they're kind of talking about like what led up to it. And Arteta said it was a pure gut feeling. I met the kid and I liked what I saw. He has trained a couple times with us, and I had a feeling yesterday that if the opportunity came, I would do it. But I think it sends a strong message to who we are as a club. I told him yesterday he would be with us and he has to be ready. He is ready. When he went on, I said, congratulations and enjoy it. I don't know what it is. When I met him, I looked at him and I had that feeling. So let's just break this down a little bit. Um, in terms of this is who we are as a club, Arsenal, like some of you guys are already said in the chat, this is a part of the fabric of Arsenal Football Club is to bring through young players and give them their opportunities. We have a very strong academy, and Per and Arteta, Vinay and Edu have all spoken about it numerous times that that's not going to change. That's not going to change. That's who we are. And we're going to use this strong academy and it's going to be a part of the brand moving forward. And we could have completely ditched the academy, by the way. Like, over the years, we could have just bought players and just said, forget it. But it's a part of who Arsenal is. Like, that is Arsenal Football Club at its core. And we've seen the likes of, Cesc Fabregas come through at 16. Obviously, we got him from Barcelona, but he came through at Arsenal at a very young age. Jack Wilshere at a very young age. So this is not anything new. It's not anything new. And it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just put this kid out there and he's just going to break. Arteta is very meticulous and methodical about every single thing he does. He doesn't do anything irresponsibly or willy-nilly. He may get things wrong, but the idea that he didn't think about it and just did it on a whim is totally probably off base. This is somebody who could have just folded to the pressure of the media and everybody else and just went ahead and played William Saliba, but sent him out on loan because that was what was best for him. And so the idea that Arteta was just saying, you know what, I'm just going to give this kid a debut because it makes me feel good, doesn't really sound like Arteta because he hasn't really done anything to further himself. It's things that are for the benefit of the club and the benefit of the team. And so that is just completely off base in general. Now, what I will push back on is, and this is not a bad thing, is that this was, something that it was a gut feeling. I do feel like, with Ethan and with the things that have happened with like Omari Hutchinson, our Arsenal and Per Mertesacker are probably very cognizant of players coming through that they could potentially lose. And so what you want to do is when you're in a good way, you're in a good period, you're winning games, it is a good time to bring through these players and give them their debuts to try to keep them. Rio Ferdinand spoke about this earlier that he knows people that know about Ethan and said that he's a very good young player and that there are suitors. There are top clubs that are watching him. And so Arsenal don't want a repeat of Amari Hutchinson as much as we downplayed that, in terms of the fan base and like, oh, we don't need him. You don't want top level talent leaving you to go to other clubs around you. Like you just don't want that. And so I do think that this was a planned situation between Arteta and Per Mertesacker to make sure that they gave this kid his debut to show him that they believe in his talent. And there's nothing wrong with that. Smart clubs try to keep their young players, and there's nothing wrong with that. Arteta doesn't have to come out to the media and say, well, we're afraid we're going to lose him, so, or we don't want to lose him and have a repeat of Omari Hutchinson. So no, they're going to back his talent and speak about his talent and how they feel about him, so that it's all about him. And this entire situation has not been about Ethan from the media standpoint coming from the other direction. It's been about, well, what is Arteta gaining from this? I'm sorry, but there's never been a manager that's gained anything or any sort of notoriety or positivity or anything by giving young players their debut. That's just not how things work. I don't know. I don't look at, managers' CVs and does it say how many debuts did you give out and at what age did you give them out at? Like it's just not something that he would ever benefit from. So it's just a weird take in itself. And Peter, the reason why we're talking about it is because this is an Arsenal fan channel, and that doesn't mean that we believe in it or anything like that, but we should be able to have civil discourse between fans and not like it doesn't mean anything. Like we know that we don't really care what they think, but it's okay for us to speak about it because guess what? It's in the news. So yeah, it's one of those things where I just feel like Arsenal have done nothing wrong. Like Arsenal have done nothing wrong. Arteta's done nothing wrong, and it wasn't self-serving at all. Like how he got that was just him trying too hard. Like it was just very desperate. Um, so yeah, he basically said that Arteta doesn't care about the boy. I think that's a really poor decision. It's all about Arteta, all about Arteta, all about Arteta. The manager that played the youngest ever player in the Premier League is me. I think that's self-indulgent. He never said that. He never stood up there and said, I can't wait to give the youngest player ever his debut. Arteta, I just don't even think that that's ever come into his mind. They want to keep their young players, and that's basically all it was. When I saw the kid on the bench, I thought that's great for him. What a brilliant experience for the kid. But when I saw him warming up, I thought this is ridiculous. This has got nothing to do with the kid, and this is all about Arteta, all about him. Look what I've done. Time will tell. This is just a terrible take in itself. Like there's no backing of it whatsoever. There's nothing to substantiate his argument around this. It's just I had nothing else to talk about today. I was hoping that Arsenal would lose the game against Brentford, and this is just all I could really concoct. But Arteta has done nothing to make it seem like this is about him. And since when is giving somebody their debut um, pointless or doesn't mean anything? I've never seen a player talk about their debut as if like, well, it was just 2 minutes, so why does it matter? It's a strange take. He came on and he hardly touched the ball. He came on with seconds to go. This is about him making an appearance, nothing to do with the performance. Why didn't he bring him on for 10 to 15 minutes to go? The reason for that, and the funny thing about this is that when a lot of players make their debuts, they don't play a lot of minutes. They get the little 5 minutes at the end of a game. They get brought on. Like, I don't know how many times that we've seen in games in the past for Arsenal where we have 5 minutes left and we see all these big numbers come out, 87, 97, 58, these big numbers come in for 5 minutes or so because they're getting their debut and it's not a big deal. The idea that, oh, well, it didn't mean anything and that he didn't get any significant minutes. A lot of players make their debut and they make it in situations where they cannot be exposed and we will not lose the game because they've made their debut at this moment. It was the perfect time to give him a high profile debut. Yeah, it could have happened in the Europa League, but it happened in the Premier League. And I do think that that's significant because Arsenal don't want to lose this player. They want to fast track him to the first team, get him close enough to the first team where he won't want to leave. And so It's not that big of a deal. Most young players make their debut and they don't play significant minutes. Not for Arsenal. Our games mean something. Yeah, if you play for whatever team, Middlesbrough, whatever team. I'm not going to even name teams because I know people don't like that. But teams where every game, like for us, every game matters so much. So we don't have a lot of time to give minutes to kids. We just don't. And so if you're 3-0 up in relatively no, we're not in a situation where it's going to hurt us at all. Why not give the kids some minutes? Like it's just to show him, give him the experience, show him that they believe in his talent, get him first to the first team, and just have the moment. That's really all it was about. But what I really push back on is that it was about Arteta. He goes on to keep bumping his gums and says there's other players on that bench that could have come on. You don't know that. You don't know that. You clearly know nothing about Arsenal, so you don't know who's in the hierarchy. I'm sorry, but there was no reason to bring in Lino Sosa. There wasn't any reason. We need to give Tierney as many minutes as possible. We didn't need to bring him in. It was just, I think it was an easier situation to bring in um, Ethan than it would have been for Lionel Sousa. But he does not know anything about these players to make an assumption that, oh, there's all these better players that are 17, 18. Why didn't they get a debut? Because there's just some players that you have to fast track because their talent is so great that you don't want to lose them. That's just what it is. You don't know. You've never been in our academy. You have no idea who these players are. I'm freaking sure you don't know who Ethan Nwaneri is, and you did not know about him until the day that you sat there at that desk at Talksport and said, what am I going to talk about today? So like he just is just talking out of his ass. There's pressure mounting already from everything I've heard. He's going to be a superstar, but putting him on 15 does not help his career. There's pressure mounting already. Where? I do feel like it does put pressure on him to perform and be a star and all this kind of stuff. But again, this goes back to Per Mertesacker and Arteta sitting together and making a decision on a kid and making the decision with the information on whether or not this kid is ready or not to withstand the pressure. Arsenal would not put a kid in the situation if they were not ready for it. Look at what they did with Saliba. They did not feel like he was ready. They did not put him in the spotlight. So they clearly have looked at it from the two people that have probably seen him the most, because again, Jason Cundy doesn't know anything about Arsenal. He really, really doesn't. So for him to make that assumption and almost make it seem like Per Mertesacker and Arteta are not professionals and they probably haven't thought this through is just totally disingenuous and really offensive, in my opinion, because they are professionals. They know what they're doing and they have seen him more than you have. Because again, I don't think you knew who he was until you sat down at your Talksport desk and said, what am I going to talk about today? And he said, I think it's irresponsible. What's Arteta going to do next week? Pick a 14-year-old? I'm deadly serious here. That was just flippant and stupid to say. And he's not going to do that. And what you're mad at is the fact that Arsenal are doing well and they gave this moment to a kid and you just didn't have anything to talk about but that, and they just, the way that they paint Arteta to be some sort of like maniac, crazy man, it's a drill sergeant, crazy, like so into himself. That's just not who he is. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not. And I just want to pull this up because there's other people that have spoken about this. It's not just Jason Cundy, it's also Danny Mills, who's always been bitter because of what Thierry Henry has done to him. But this is coming from Danny Murphy on Harvey Elliott. He says he's a great dribbler, he's very sharp, and he's got good feet. He could play in one of those front three roles. This kid could be a superstar if he's got the talent to do it. He's at the right place. So this is when Harvey Elliott made his debut, and he was the youngest to ever make his debut prior to Ethan Nwaneri. So, and nobody said shit then. Nobody said anything about that. He was 16 years and 1 month old when he made his debut at Fulham. Is anybody talking about Scott Parker? Does anybody talk about Scott Parker and, oh, well, he gave him his debut? No, nobody's talking about that. This is an absolute joke. He makes no sense. Like, it just is like the silliest thing I've ever heard. And so there's definitely a double standard here and them just reaching. Like, it is a reach for them to make it seem like Arteta was doing this from a self-indulgent place. Do I feel like it puts pressure on Ethan? Yes. But again, per Mertesacker and Arteta would have talked about this and decided amongst each other whether or not the kid was ready to take on something like this. And so I would expect to see Ethan, in Europa League, maybe Europa League squads. I'm not sure, but we'll probably see more of him now. But it's literally just a joke. It's literally just a joke. Like, it's literally laughable. So yeah, you know, that's my rant on that. But I was like, really? Like, you're joking. Um, let's see. Marah says, "Screw that guy." Um, but Clucking Bell, see, you've caught yourself up again. You're saying that Harvey Elliott plays for a big club under a proper manager, Jess. You may think that Arteta is a joke and all this kind of stuff, but Scott Parker actually gave him his debut, not Klopp. He came from Fulham. That's where he made his debut. So whether or not he's at a bigger club with a better manager is actually irrelevant to the conversation. We're talking about managers making, giving players their debut. And last time I checked, Fulham and Scott Parker were not better than Arsenal and Arteta. So you've done yourself there. Sorry, it's not relevant to be honest. CFC Burr, we're not sad. We're actually happy. You're actually sad because where are you guys? Eighth, something like that. Eighth, seventh, eighth place. So you guys are sad, not us. Bye. All right. Let's see. Trevelli says Curtis said Chelsea is trying to buy the kid, which is another reason Arteta gave him a start. Exactly. And that's exactly what it is that teams are looking at him and they want to make sure that they keep their young players. We don't want them going to other places. Let's see. Let's see. Let's go ahead and just put you on timeout because you don't make any sense. Let's see. Peter says, "Is Granit doing that? Darn interesting." They have said that Granit Xhaka has been coaching. He's obviously getting his coaching badges and he'll be a part of Arteta's coaching tree. That's just what it is. So, good for him. And also, like, Jacka, I think, was one of the only like senior players that went to the under 21s game when Fabio Vieira and ESR played with them. And I thought, yeah, he's definitely trying to position himself to be a coach in the future, and that's really good. Let's see. Maximius says, "Hey Jess, you should speak about Granit Xhaka. He's working on his coaching badges and was apparently coaching Ethan Nwaneri." Exactly. Like, we spent a long time talking about Granit Xhaka yesterday, so I won't like open up like a full-on conversation about him. But I mean, he's definitely getting his coaching badges, and he is going to be learning under Mikel Arteta, which is, makes a lot of sense. And so, yeah, like I really think Granit Xhaka is moving into that next stage of his career. I don't think he'll be retiring anytime soon, but he's definitely preparing for what he's going to do after. Yo-Yo says Xhaka to replace Arteta would be hilarious. Yeah. Let's slow down. Let's slow down. Let's slow down. And Amira, it's just this. I feel like when it's Arsenal, everyone wants to lump in for some reason Micah Richards. Exactly. And that's pretty much what it is. So there's 150 of you guys in here. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Oh, I see some new people in here. Frantisek says, "We can't celebrate. We did not play against anyone yet, and now we can't give the opportunity to the most talented youngster from our academy. It's becoming a meme, laughing my ass off." Exactly. It's just a joke. Like, people just, but also, again, like going back to what I said at the very beginning, we're a very, very big fan base and with a very big online presence. So when you have those things, you tend to get people will say anything just for clicks. And so I'm pretty sure Talksport, when they sat there and thought about what are we going to talk about, what are going to be our arguments, they said, well, we can't talk about how great the debut is. We need to have the alternative opposition take to that, and the opposition take to the debut is good can't just be the debut is bad, because that doesn't make any sense. Giving a kid his debut is never a bad thing. So they had to tack something onto it to make it seem like it was diabolical and a scheme and, self-indulgent, and that's where they got it from, and that's pretty much all it is. iGamer says big up the chat, and Jess, big up to you as well. K9 says, when fans from our opposing teams religiously join your podcast, gas, they only really come when we're doing bad and when we're doing really good, so, and we're doing good. So that's when they come to try to, oh, well, you guys are crap. Well, we really aren't. So yeah. Let's see. A cow says LFC always boasting after winning the EPL for the first time in 30 years of trials. This time winning it in an empty stadium. They're crashing this year. Yeah, I mean, with Liverpool, it's difficult because I always feel like with the type of players that they have, they can always put together a really, really good run. So I don't want to count them out just yet, and all that kind of stuff. They don't look great, but let's see what they look like after the international break, because we know this Liverpool team can always do something special. There's 200 of you guys in here now. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. The Truth Sets Free, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate all your love and support. OG Jill says, to be candid, we gave them a show. They couldn't talk about the match, so they decided to talk about negative about what happened during a sub. Exactly. It's just ridiculous. It's actually a joke. Let's see. Peter says, we love you, Jess, bringing some balance to the convo. I try to be as balanced as possible. That's pretty much how I am. I mean, I'm obviously an Arsenal fan, so sometimes I can be biased, but for the most part, I try to keep it as real as possible. It's hard, but I try to. So yeah, less about them, more about Ivan Toney. This is just a little bit of fun. Like, it's just a little bit of fun. Like, I don't have anything against Ivan Toney. I think he's doing an excellent job this season. He more than deserves to get his England call up. He has been excellent this season. I think he was pretty good last season as well. But he was in Saliba's pocket. Okay? Like, he was in Saliba's pocket. And today, he came out and spoke about, the tweets that went out from Gabrielle and the Arsenal players and said, once was funny, second time was cringy, about Arsenal, the Arsenal players making fun of him and what he said about nice kick about with the boys. And he said that he wanted to respond, but he didn't, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, yeah, you really can't respond, can you? He said, nah, listen, I bit my tongue. I wanted to reply. I wanted to nibble, but fair play. They played very, very well. They're a different Arsenal side from what we played before. They're going very well. So fair play to them. They are going well. So, first of all, like, I do think that he took it as well as he possibly could. Like, he came out there and he said, nice kickabout with the boys, and then went on a publicity tour after that. And I think people, like, I don't know if people forgot, but he went on a publicity tour after he said that, made that comment, and they won. He was on multiple podcasts talking smack about Arsenal. He said on one podcast that Arsenal would never scare him and they won't be a serious team until they get a real striker and things like that. So let's not act like you said one thing. You were literally went on a world tour after you won that game. Fair play to you. And not to be funny, but as cringy as that may have been, there's nothing more cringy than going on vacation and saying F Brentford, the team that employs you, because some hoochie was standing next to you. That's cringy. That is cringy. Okay. So when we talk about cringe, make sure that you're not the pot calling the kettle black here. But it seemed like he, took it well. And, Arsenal, we do celebrate and we do our thing, and people don't like it. But ultimately, if you can dish it out, you have to be able to take it. And ultimately, we have to be able to do the same things. So when we do things, they will come back to bite us as well. But yeah, like, I thought that was funny. Good for him. Like, I think he's going to be a really good player, and I'm sure a big team is going to scoop him up. Like, we know the likes of Chelsea and Manchester United are interested in him, and so I'm sure we'll see that soon. But yeah, that felt good. I was like, vitamins in my veins. Sammy says, Tony receipts. Seawater says World Tour. You guys check it out. Look back at that time. He went on multiple podcasts after that win. He, and was talking about Arsenal sitting back in his chair. Oh, they will never be good unless they have a good striker. La 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 la. I mean, he wasn't lying, but he went on a world tour. Subdude says, "What is England going to do if they face France in the World Cup?" Play Tony. I don't know. I mean, I don't. That's a question for the chat. I'm not an England supporter. I just want Saka to do well. That's pretty much it. But we'll see how England do in the World Cup. Ben Ross says, just airing him out. Talk to the first thing I thought about was like, is he serious? Like, this is the man that sat there on that boat. We also saw that video of him saying F Brentford because he had some chick standing next to him and he wanted to impress her. Like, it was so, like, that's cringy to me. You're a grown up. You're like 26 years old. Reggie says, tell Tony to go pick Saliba's pocket lint out of his teeth. Football Power Hour says, Tony has ran his mouth and now it's come full circle. Lucas says he was right. We have a serious striker now. I mean, he wasn't lying, but yeah, it was funny. And I think these are the things in football that we should be able to laugh at and go back and forth. I really don't think it's that deep. Football is talking shit, it's getting on each other, it's banter, it's all those types of things. And so as long as you can give it, as long as you can take it, you can give it. It's fine. It's just people that don't want to do back and forth. It is what it is. Let's see. Bro Pro says, nah, England with Southgate is a bit hopeless. Regardless, I'm going to tell you guys right now. Okay. I've ordered my US kit. So essentially for me, just a little bit of background since we have some time here is, I support Brazil. I always have. Ronaldinho is my favorite player. So as long as I've known him, that's the team that I've supported. And also because the US have always been terrible. But since this new crop of young US internationals have come through, I do try to support the US more. And we're in the same group. It's funny because Iran, the US and England are all in a group together. If you don't find that funny, fair enough. But it's one of those. And if we even draw the game, I'm gonna get ugly because there is no reason why the US should get anything out of that game. So if you guys don't play and you don't win, I'm gonna be shameless on here. So don't come here if you're sensitive, okay? But yeah, I think England should have more than enough to, get pretty far in the tournament, but I don't think they'll win it. But you never really know. I didn't think they'd do well in the Euros, and look what they did. So it is what it is. Levi says, Jess, when are you going to be working with Roy Keane and Jamie Carragher? You guys, let me tell you, so Roy Keane is a player that I really, really liked back in the day. Obviously, being an Arsenal fan is difficult, but I think he was a lot better than what people made him out to seem. He was more than a brute, but he did do his fair share of nasties. Jamie Carragher, I think, is one of the best pundits. I really, really do. I think he's pretty fair. Him and Gary Neville, I think, have good banter and good little relationship and things like that. And I just like seeing a different tone of punditry. I do think over the last, decade or so, it's been stale and very boring. And when you see things like the overlapping, you see Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, having fun and talking and being as nuanced as they can be. Sometimes they do get a little bit biased, but for the most part, they do a good job. And then, when you see things like Micah Richards and Thierry Henry and Jamie Carragher all in the studio together for CBS, I just think this is the way forward for punditry and commentary and football moving forward. This is it. Less stuffy, more real, people giving it back and forth, showing personality and not just being because the difference between what you see on CBS for the Champions League and what you see on ESPN is night and day. ESPN is actually the worst thing I've ever seen. In terms of the group of people that they have. No offense to them. I know that they have experience, but they're not fun. They don't have any personality and they're stuck in their ways. And when you see what they do at CBS, what you see on what they do on the overlap, it's just so refreshing. And so I would love to work with Jamie Carragher. I think he is so cool. I really do. And Even Gary Neville, I think when he does back United to the hilt, because he's a Man United fan and used to play for them and is a legend and all that. But I think for the most part, he's pretty damn good, so that is the way forward. And I really enjoy watching that stuff, not the old stuff. So it's so stank. Sammy says CBS is so funny. It is. It's so funny. It's so nice. Kevino Latino says that old man from ESPN is hilarious. Which one? Which one? O'Malley says Alexi Lawless on the mic. You guys, if this was like something not on live, I would tell you guys about the time that I met Alexi Lawless, but I'm not going to tell you guys because I don't know if it gets back to him. I don't think he'd like what I'd have to say. Elm says Arsenal are the only team who aren't allowed to celebrate goals, celebrate wins, play youth academy players. Exactly. Deflected Mind says, to be honest, Jess, people watch ESPN just for vibes and fun. Nobody takes them seriously, not even those people themselves. Yeah, I mean, it's just weird. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's weird to have professionals up there that just are so unprofessional as far as I'm concerned. I'm like, do you even do research? Sometimes I just think they're just up there saying whatever. O'Malley says Micah Richards and Henri are awesome pundits. Micah Richards is just amazing. Like, he just is so real. He keeps it real when he has to and speaks about the football, but his laugh and his energy is infectious. And I think, again, that's the way forward. I even obviously, Laura Woods is loved, for everything that she does, but what she brings is just a good, positive energy to everything that she does. And I like that. I like that. So yep, Steve Nickel, he's terrible. So yeah, there's 230 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I know we got a little bit off topic, but it doesn't matter. We're just here, just having fun. So let's move on to a little bit of a rumor that has come out around Arsenal wanting to potentially bring in a new player named Jesper Lindstrom. This is, a report saying that Arsenal have open talks with Eintracht Frankfurt over a 17 million pound move for winger Jesper Lindstrom, with boss Mikel Arteta keen to bolster his squad in the January window. He's a Danish winger, and he plays for, like I said, Eintracht Frankfurt, and he used to be on Brøndby, I think, and that's the team that we're going to be playing in the Europa League. We were linked to him before, and I remember looking at this was before he went to Eintracht Frankfurt, and I was looking at his compilations, and I thought, this looks like a very good player, but he was very kind of like at the beginning of, I think kind of fleshing out his skill sets and things like that. So I was like, maybe something for the future, but definitely not something now. But this is coming from Bill. This is saying that Arsenal have already made contact with Jesper Lindstrom's agent and are considering a move in January. And there was one other little tidbit I wanted to bring up as well. Let me pull it up. It's from 90 Min. Arsenal have made the 22-year-old Eintracht Frankfurt midfielder Jesper Lindstrom a priority target for the upcoming transfer window. Like most players that we're interested in, more than one team are interested in them as well. So keep that in mind. But he is like a winger attacking midfielder type player. So I think that's really interesting because, let's just, but beyond the idea, I know some people are going to be like, there's no way we're interested in him, blah, 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 but just stay with me. He is the type of player that he's different than Bukayo Saka and Martinelli. He's kind of more like Emile Smith-Rowe, I think, in the way that he plays, but he's a little bit more, not physical per se, but he's really kind of fast. He can get past his man. He likes to shoot, and he is more of a forward than a midfielder than anything. And he usually, I think, plays off of the right-hand side, and he's went to Frankfurt and has done okay. I'm not going to say that he's been lighting the world, on fire or anything like that, but he's looked pretty good. He's right-footed. Like I said, 22 years old and about 6'1". So he's taller than most wingers. And I do think that we need to add more height to our attacking ranks, the players that are playing in that forward line. We need more height. But yeah, he played for Brøndby, left for Eintracht Frankfurt last summer, and so he's been there for a year. And it looks like potentially teams are looking at him for this January or maybe even in the summer. So this is definitely one to watch. In terms of his statistics, like I'll just pull him up real quick and see, because we know the most important thing for players that play in those attacking positions is goals and assists. You know, you want to make sure that you're bringing in somebody that has those that in their locker. And you know, in the Bundesliga last season, he had 5 goals and 5 assists. That was like his first season in the Bundesliga. That's not bad at all. And when he was at Brøndby, like the year prior, he had 9 goals and 9 assists. So, I mean, it's not double figures, it's not Holland levels or anything like that, but there's definitely something there. He scored like a goal in the Champions League. In this season, he has 1 goal, but that's 6 appearances, so that's not like super bad or anything like that. And so, and it looks like it's been mostly substitution appearances because he only has 315 minutes in the Bundesliga. So, what is that? Like, if you like, that's, you know, maybe half a game every game. So he hasn't played every single game either or full minutes. But I think this is the type of player that he looks like an Arsenal player to me in terms of how he keeps on to the ball, how he can play multiple positions, technical ability, and things like that. I just wonder if this is the right player to bring in January. He can't play central defensive midfielder. And I think that's something that Arsenal fans are really worried about. It's not that I'm saying that we don't need another attacker. We definitely do. Um, you know, but it's just a matter of like, is this more important than the midfielder? You guys can let me know in the chat box what you think. But yeah, he's played attacking midfield, left wing, center midfield, second striker, center forward. And I did see somebody say that he plays kind of like a similar position or a similar way to Thomas Mueller in the position that he plays. And so, yeah, I can kind of see that. Somebody that can play across the front three and maybe even in the hole behind, but their main thing is going to be getting into the box, taking shots, taking people on. So, yeah, I like the link. I don't know, you know, what's going to happen with that, but he feels more like an Arsenal player. The one thing that I will say about Madrid is I don't know about him in a possession-based team. So what I've seen a lot from him is a lot of counterattacking and beating guys, you know, in open space. But Arsenal play in condensed spaces. We don't usually play on the counter. And so what is he going to be like in a team that has a lot more possession? That's what, it's not a concern, but it's just something that I've thought about. You know, so, and with Madrid, there's a lot of noise around him. There's a lot of, oh, everybody's going to be going after him. They want over 50 million euros for him. I can't see us going in for him if that's the case. But Lindstrom, let's see, when I'm looking at his, this is funny. Of course, one of the players that he profiles similarly statistically is Martinelli, Jeremy Pino, Jared Bowen. So take that how you will. Um, he's in the 83rd percentile for non-penalty XG. So yeah, his statistics don't look like, they're not off the charts. They're not everything green or anything like that. There's a lot of defensive work in here. 91st percentile in interceptions, 88th percentile in blocks. So essentially, like, at least he does his defensive work. 95th percentile in pressures. So this is a player that likes to put other players under pressure, which is important for Arsenal. But nothing in his statistics really stand out. This is a player that I think you have to look at and actually watch, you know, to see what he's all about. But yeah, it's the type of player that it looks like an Arsenal player. It's just a matter of like whether or not Arsenal actually go for him. Bendover says, "Are you sick?" No, I am tired and I have a little bit of a stuffy nose, but thanks for letting me know that I look like I'm sick. Let's see. Frank Frantisek says, Lindstrom won the Europa League with Eintracht last season. He sure did. Trevelli says, I was worried about if he's an Arteta player also. Boy is rapid. Emmanuel says, what of Madrid? Let's see. Callum says Lindstrom is okay. There's always been a question on players coming from the Bundesliga making a solid transition to the Prem. Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of that is based on what happened with what's his name? Kai Havertz and what's his name? The other one that went back. Oh my gosh, my brain is so done. You guys know what I'm talking about. Both players that went to Chelsea, a lot of that is based on that. But I think Arsenal would only bring over players that they actually felt like could adapt to what we're trying to do. And so I don't really think about Bundesliga tax and all that type of stuff. I think if you're good enough and you're recruited properly and you fit into what the manager is trying to do, you will adapt. So yeah. Trevelli says, Mudryk, don't stop scoring. We won't be able to afford him. Deflected Mind says, is Mudryk a realistic option in the future? I just think it's getting further and further away with all of the noise around him, if I'm being honest. Maximius says, Lindstrom or Mudryk, what's your pick? You know, when I look at both of them, I think they would both play well at Arsenal. I think they're both really talented. I think Mudryk has more hype around him at the moment because he's scoring so many goals and because he was so wanted over the summer and he's so fast and he just jumps off of the screen. But when I look at him and when I look at Lindstrom, I do have to say that when I look at the two players, I can see Lindstrom really fitting into what we're doing because he can play multiple positions. He can play off of the left. He can play off of the right. He can play through the center. He can play in midfield. And he just looks more like us. I don't know how to describe it, but you guys know what I mean. When you look at a player and you're like, wow, like they look like they could play for Arsenal or they would. That's kind of what I see from Lindstrom, but I would take either. You know, I would take either to be fair. Yo-Yo says numbers mean very little. Eye test is king. Let's see. Daryl says, I want to see how Madrid would perform against Madrid. Ify says, we need a DM. I need to shout that out from the rooftop. This winger news does not excite me. Pray for Partey, y'all. Well, that's a good little segue into the injury kind of situation that we have going on here, which isn't terrible, but it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. There's 200 of you guys in here. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. We need some help and some luck from the injury gods because we're playing really well now, but I do feel like we're on the edges here of where we're probably at the threshold of the amount of injuries that we can have. So we can sustain an Emil Smith-Rowe, Zinchenko injury, 2 injuries maybe, but we haven't had any injuries since or in the front line. And I'm knock on wood because obviously like the longer they can stay fit, the better. But there's going to be a moment in time in the Premier League where we can't play those 3. We can't play Gabriel Jesus, Saka, and Martinelli. And when I look at the wing options, I just don't see a like for like situation there for the 2 out wide. Saka and Martinelli are performing at such a good level that, somebody like Marquinhos could come in, but is he really up to the levels? You know what I mean? And so I worry about that situation. I worry about what it's going to look like if we don't have those 2. I wonder what it's going to be like if for some reason Thomas Partey gets another long-term injury. And so I do understand where there's still a little bit of like, but what if? And we've kind of went through a little bit of an injury situation of we've withstood it. We've done well, but we're going into a really difficult October. We're going to be playing a lot of games against better opposition in Europe and in the Premier League. And I just wonder about, our depth and all this kind of stuff. So let's see, what's being spoken about here. I know that there was something out there about Arsenal speaking to the Ghana FA about trying to keep Thomas Partey fit. That's definitely something that needs to happen. Like they're going to the World Cup. I know that these games are important too, but Like, come on. We don't need this guy coming back and just going down immediately like he did after Crystal Palace, or at Crystal Palace. This is coming from Charles Watts. He says Martin Odegaard's calf should the Martin Odegaard calf should be available to face Tottenham on October 1st, provided he doesn't do any further damage during the international break with Norway. You're not going to the World Cup. He just needs to kind of play decent, but like not get hurt. Arsenal are hopeful Zinchenko calf could also be back to face Tottenham. I don't know what was going on with Gabriel, but that looked like potential calf as well. It looks like we have recurring, like kind of like a lot of calf injuries. I'm not sure if that's something that needs to be looked at from the medical staff or what. It can't just be bad luck. And then Emile Smith-Rowe is a doubt for Arsenal's match against Tottenham on October 1st, but Cedric and Reece Nelson are expected to be available. Early suggestions are that Mohamed Elneny might not be available until January at the earliest. And I think that's why Arsenal may look to bring in a midfielder, because by the time Elneny comes back in, it's not like he's going to be able to step onto the pitch right in January. Like, he's going to need time. And what we saw from Sambi is that against lower level opposition with most of the top players around him, he's okay. But if we had to play Tottenham and Liverpool, Man Cities, these types of games, really high level matches with Sambi in those positions, I do think he would leave a lot to be desired. And that's not to say that Sambi has not gotten better or anything like that. It's just there's a level that he has not reached yet. And so Arsenal may be looking at a midfielder. I think they should be, because without Thomas Partey potentially and Elneny not looking like he's going to be able to be available until January at the earliest, we are very thin in that position. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of injuries. Having Reece Nelson and Cedric Suarez, you guys can let me know if that means anything, but they're good players for the Europa League, so that will help us for sure. It'll be interesting to see how Reece Nelson looks. Every time that it looks like he's about to break through again, he gets injured. So, I'm not going to hold my breath on that or anything. But Martin Odegaard and Zinchenko back for the North London Derby would be so good. So good for us, because obviously we played really well with Vieira and Tierney, but you just want to have those additional options. You want to have all your strength and depth available. And I think there was only one game this season where I remember looking at the bench and saying, that's basically it. Emile Smith-Rowe, Vieira, Sambi, Tommy, and Tierney were all on the bench at once. And I was like, that's it. We are looking so much deeper. And then all of a sudden everybody got injured. So that's where we are kind of with injuries. But, I think we're in a decent place. I would love to see Arsenal add just at least one player in January, because let's go for it. Let's go for it. Let's make sure that we don't fall off a cliff, Reggie Perry says Sambi needs to learn to maintain that position. I mean, the thing about him is that he just is kind of like Bambi. He just kind of gallops along and just, I don't know, it's like that, and it's like, get some intensity, run. Like, every time I see Sambi, I'm like, go run, and he just, he doesn't have enough intensity for me to play in that deepest position. He just doesn't move quick enough for me. But I think Sambi is doing okay. I just don't want to see him in the bigger games. Peter says Sambi ain't a DM. I think Arsenal have kind of figured that out, but also when Thomas Partey was out and Elneny was out, they reverted back to that. So if he's going to play in the 8 position, which is probably his better position, then we need to bring in a DM, because Elneny's not going to be there. Bro Pro says Sambi's problem is he's not convincing enough when trying to put in a challenge or a tackle. He kind of fouls, or he just completely misses, or just doesn't get enough he doesn't have enough physicality, and that's very, very true. He just lacks a little bit. I love Sambi, but I just wonder, it's a conversation for another day. I don't think I'm ready to open that conversation. I don't think we're ready to have that open up that dialogue on Sambi, but 20 million is a lot, and he needs to start progressing. But it's hard to see somebody progress when they don't get a lot of playing time. And I just Wonder if you might need a loan. Okay, that's it. That's it. That's it. Um, Bajan says, should we have bought Tielemans in the summer? You guys can go ahead and start getting your questions in now. Just make sure it's obvious it's a question by putting a nice little Q in front of it. Don't spam the chat, but you can go ahead and start putting in your questions. Should we have bought Tielemans? I mean, yeah, maybe. I think seeing Vieira now, I can kind of understand why Arsenal didn't go for Tielemans because Xhaka is definitely playing at a really good level, and Vieira can do a good job in that position. I have to be honest. Tielemans is somebody that is doing just like the rest of the team, but playing so poorly right now. That whole Leicester team, I'd be afraid to get anybody off of that team, to be fair. But maybe we should have went in for him, but now seeing Vieira, I do feel like okay, that makes more sense because Vieira definitely has a high ceiling. And if it's not a physicality issue with him, which it doesn't really look like, is it really worth it to bring in somebody if you have somebody that can do something quite similar and the person that's already playing that position is playing at a high level? So for me, maybe it's more about should we have made sure that we secured the DM, than Tielemans potentially. A lot of the feeling around getting Tielemans was more based on what is Vieira and what is he going to give to us. And now that I've seen him, I'm like, maybe we didn't need Tielemans, but we needed something. We needed another DM or somebody just to, you know, uh, solidify that deepest position. Osman Ali says, "Why is the top 6 suddenly a new league? Who cares if we lose 10 games, win 28 and get top 4?" It's just moving the goalposts, to be fair. Like, I think with Arsenal, there's this, okay, well, they need to pass this challenge for me to believe that they're a good team. A lot of this is coming from rivals, but it's just about moving the goalpost because in order to get into the top 4, traditionally, this is how it goes. You have to beat the teams outside of the top 6. You don't necessarily have to beat all the teams in the entire league. If you're saying that Arsenal need to beat all the small teams and also get points off of all of the big teams, then what you're saying is that they're going for the title. And so most rivals would say, "Oh no, you're not going for the title. You're not good enough. So why do we have to beat all the top 6 teams?" It's not about Manchester United, Tottenham, and Chelsea. We always get points off of those teams every season. Whether it's home or away, we nick something from those 3 teams, so I'm not really worried about it. What it really is, it's about getting over that mental block when it comes to Manchester City and Liverpool in particular. We have not scored a goal on them in who knows how long. They always beat us. It's a certain 6 points for them, and I think for the fan base, it's more of like, okay, does the team have that mentality? But even if we don't win those games, we can still make top 4. And so it's just about rivals moving the goalposts because we're playing really well and they're like, "Oh, well, they haven't played anybody." Well, every week we're not going to you're going to play more teams against the lower people outside of the top 6 than you are with the teams inside of it. So what points do you think are more important to get? Of course you want to nick points from your rivals. Of course you want to make sure that you take some points from those games as well. But ultimately, what we're doing now, if we could sustain that, would get us top 4. So it's just about moving the goalposts, Osman. That's really all it is. Deflected Mind says, which 2 teams will reach the Europa League final and who will win it? It's always with the Europa League, it's either the 2 English teams or it's neither. Or one, so I would love to say like from this vantage point it's going to be Arsenal and Man United, but it's never really that simple, is it? So let me see who else is in the competition just so I make sure I don't do a disservice to the teams that are in there. But it's also about who drops down. Who drops down is also, important. But let's see. God, we really should be getting to the final of this. With the teams that I'm looking at right here, really, really Manchester United and Arsenal should be getting through. But it never really happens like that. But we'll see. We'll see. I think Roma is struggling, but I wouldn't put it past Jose Mourinho to shithouse his way to a final. The other teams in here. Nah, you guys, we should be getting to the final. It should be Arsenal and probably Man United, honestly. So we'll see. But I think on early thoughts here, potentially Arsenal and Man United. It depends on who drops down. But that's so easy to say because, you know, everybody else looks like nothing teams, no offense to them. Gunnar Vittel says Conte wants to return to Juventus. Not trying to gas everyone up, but she's extremely reliable when it comes to Juventus. There are some rumors around there. Conte's contract is out at the end of this season. And so there are some rumors out there that Conte may leave and go to Juventus because obviously, like, they probably are ready to move on from Allegri. He's been shambolic since he's been back. But let's just see. He might be trying to force Tottenham's hand to give him, more money or something like that. So we'll see. But it would be funny if he left because now that Graham Potter is gone, who are they going to get? Who are they going to get? Poch. Probably Poch goes back there. Such an obvious play, isn't it? Let's see. Raviel says, I hope you all know the midfield is a big responsibility. Arna Bajan says, instead of Douglas Luiz, we should have bid for him. Fair enough. Let's see. Ify says, when do you think some of the pundits will respect Arsenal? When we win, they will say we played no one. When we've lost to United, they feel justified. I think as Arsenal fans, we also have to remember that we've been poor for a long time. In the social media era, Arsenal has not been good. Since social media has been big and fan content has come out and all this kind of stuff, Arsenal have been poor. And so we have been Banter Club FC for a long time. And so changing that narrative around is going to take more than just a couple of good seasons. We're going to have to be challenging for titles because that's ultimately the expectation of Arsenal Football Club, is to be challenging for titles in the Champions League, winning trophies. And so as much as it feels good right now and we feel like we should be getting, better commentary, like people should be recognizing the steps that are going into us getting back to where we want to be. Ultimately, until we get to that pinnacle, they're going to always act like it's not happening. And so it just is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? It just is what it is. Like, you can't expect people to give you respect, because they're not going to. It's just a matter of, are we keeping ourselves honest? Are we making sure that as a fan base, we are honest about where we are in the process? We know we're going in the right direction, but we have to hold the club accountable. They need to push for titles. Like, that's it. That's what Arsenal need to be looking at. And so, as well as we've done and as good as the bricks have been to build the little, beginnings of a foundation, we're nowhere near where we need to be. So we can be excited about where we are at the moment and the progression that we've seen over the last 2 seasons, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. Arsenal have got to start winning titles, and I think if we start winning trophies beyond the FA Cup and it's more, sustainable and all that kind of stuff, and Arteta really proves to be that top manager, it's going to be tough, so I think we just have to be willing to weather the storm. Emmanuel asks, Arteta is so picky, we can't really predict his signing, so let's just wait until we sign someone. I'm tired of speculation. The summer was enough. Don't you think so? Well, the thing is like, of course, I don't believe every single rumor, and I don't take it as like, okay, we're linked to Jesper Lindstrom, so we're gonna get him. I just think that from my channel's perspective, it's okay here to speak about players and profiles and what they could bring and what the players like, and just talk about the headline, knowing that, it may or may not happen. Most links don't happen. And so the speculation, it just depends on how deep you take it. Pause. I need a nap. It just depends on how much you're willing to invest into a rumor or not. And so, yeah, I just think it's interesting looking at certain things. And I think Lindstrom looks like an interesting player, but do I believe 100% now we're going to get him? No. Amira says, when Eddie was subbed on Sunday, he played center forward and Jesus played wide left. Thought it would have been Eddie left, wide left, or left wing. I know with how we play positions doesn't really matter as much, but were you surprised by this? No, not necessarily. I think we want to try different things. Sometimes you bring Eddie on wide and see what happens. Sometimes you want to put Jesus out there to see what you have. Um, and so it didn't really surprise me. And like you said, it doesn't really matter. But I'll say that maybe I feel more comfortable with Eddie through the center and Gabriel Jesus wide than I do in the other direction. And so I was okay with it, but you guys can let me know how you felt about it. But no, I wasn't particularly surprised because I do think when you have that little bit of time to experiment, it's okay, to do so. And Gabriel Jesus has been a good winger by all accounts, so that's it just is what it is. Blaze says, Jess, it seems like Arteta's style and possession football Jess, it seems like Arteta's style is possession football this season. How we can play and beat with a high line against Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea, and City. Um, so if you're asking how we play that way, I mean, I don't think it's that much of an issue against like Liverpool or Chelsea. Like those two teams, I don't think playing possession against them will hurt us in any way. And I actually didn't feel that way against Man City either. I thought for the most part when we played them last season at home, we got the better of them and it was just about the mentality issues and the experience and maturity that didn't see us through to the end of that game. But with Spurs and like Man United in the way that they play, we're always going to be susceptible. And we've been susceptible the entire season. Every single team has tried to play it in behind our back line. It's just they didn't have Rashford. They didn't have Rashford, they didn't have Bruno and Eriksson. So they didn't have the quality to put those balls through pinpoint accuracy. And they didn't have a freaking demon named Rashford barreling down on your goal that's really, really good in those circumstances. So I think ultimately we have to be better at our plan A when we play against the likes of Spurs and be clinical when we have those moments and not be stupid. Now, with Spurs, it's a little bit different than Man United because basically it's Kane dropping in and dropping those balls in behind and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit different, but we know how to play them. I think we've done well against their counterattack when we've had our players and we've been on it. It's just a matter of like, you know, when we have possession, making the most out of that possession and not giving them easy opportunities to build through the middle and get those balls in behind because they get one chance and they finish. But we know against Spurs we'll have the majority of the possession. We'll have a lot of chances. It's just a matter of are we going to be clinical or not. Now, City is different now this season because now I'm more afraid of them on the counterattack because they have a cyborg up front named Erling Haaland. So I think that's going to be a little bit different. That's something we're going to have to look at. It would be really weird if they came to the Emirates and we had a bunch of possession and they kind of let us have it and then just kicked it to Erling Haaland and behind. I think we just have to play our game and do plan A better. And had we had been more clinical against Man United, I think that's still a really even game. I still think it's a 2-2, to be honest with you guys. I think they played quite well. And I think we were unlucky to give up the third goal, and to not get a second. But even with Spurs, I think it'll be really close, but we just have to be smarter. We need to be more clinical. Karthik says, for Paqueta, is it West Ham tax, Premier League tax, or the bullet dodge for the price? Arsenal not paying above their valuation. I think it's early days for Paqueta, but he hasn't looked good at West Ham, but neither did Ben Rama. And I have this weird thing about David Moyes not really doing well with creative players. There's no creative players in their team, and Ben Rama is not a bad player, but he's been pretty much shoved to the edges of the squad. And he was a player that I thought was very strange for him to go to West Ham. I thought it was strange for Paqueta to go to West Ham. I thought that doesn't look like a place where you will thrive. He is somewhat of like a free spirit. So if you're not going to allow him to do his thing, he's going to suffer. And I feel like Moyes is quite stringent and plays a certain way, and it doesn't allow for freedom in those midfield positions. So it may end up not being a good move for him. I thought it was very strange that he went to West Ham. I know he was desperate to get to the Premier League and go to London, but that was not the right London club to go to. And just like Ben Rama, I think he'll be in a very similar situation where he may find himself on the edges of the squad because ultimately the creative players don't really survive in Moyes' system for some reason. And so, yeah, but we'll see as time goes on. It may just turn out that he's just maybe wasn't as good as maybe I thought or other people, but I've seen enough of Paqueta to think that I do think he's a better player than what he's shown so far. But it has to be the right team. We've seen players go to teams in the past and it just not work out because it wasn't the right fit. And I think it might end up being that, to be fair. Um, I can't get over this name in here, bend over. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like an innuendo or something like that, but I keep saying it because I'm just gonna act like it's innocent. The truth sets free. Thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate that. 6 million 007 says, have you watched the Hail End series? Just finished it and I was very impressed by it and the work Per does. I have not watched it. I haven't had time, but I will get on it, I promise. And maybe I'll do a little bit of a review for you guys at some point. Um, let's see. Let's see. Gunnar Thab says, Jess, are you interested in an editor? How do I reach out to you? Um, yeah, like if you want to reach out to me, you can on Twitter, you can just send me a DM or you can send an email to SheKnowsArsenal@gmail.com and you could just let me know what your ideas are and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Lucas says, did we improve enough for you to be confident if we play the likes of Inter, Atletico, Dortmund in Europe? You guys, that would be insane. Do you got like, I almost want us to play teams like that to see how close we are because sometimes I watch the Champions League and I'm like, I think we'd be okay. Do you is something going on in the chat, you guys? I'm just making sure. Give me 1 second. Yeah. So I just kind of want to see where we're at, but I would prefer us to have like the easiest run possible so we could get to the final. But have we improved enough? We definitely can beat Dortmund. I think defensively they are shocking. And so I definitely think we could beat them. Inter, I think we'd give them a really good game. Atletico. eh, That's a tough one because we know how Simeone is in these competitions, but I do think we would give a good game to all three of those teams. I think we could win those games. It just be a matter of, for us, it's not about, I don't think it's about talent per se, as see teams with less talent do good things. I think it's about maturity and experience with us when we get into big games. How do we manage the moments? How do we not let one goal become two? Excuse me, because I kind of feel like that's our story. But yeah, I think we would do well against those teams, but I'd rather not get those. You can give me like let me look at some of these names. Give me Nantes, give me Freiburg, give me Sturm, give me Michelin, give me all Fernabache, give me Ludogorets, give me those guys. Give me more of those guys. Because I want to get to the final as bad as possible. So yeah, you guys, we're gonna get out of there. Get out of here. Get out of there. I meant to say get out of here, you guys. I am wiped. I've been up since 5:30, but I was up from like 2:30 because I never really went back to sleep. So I am a little bit run down. So I apologize if I was just like all over the place, but I wanted to make sure I got a show out here for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. I know it was just a little bit of us just chatting, but I feel like those are the best ones, to be honest. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Tomorrow is Thursday. So yeah, tomorrow we'll have another show. No, Friday we'll have another show. So tomorrow, no show. Friday, a show, if that makes sense. Yeah, and get in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate all of you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one.